You're wiping down the kitchen counter for the second time today. It's not dirty, not really. There was a single water ring from your morning glass, maybe a few crumbs near the toaster that nobody else would notice. But you noticed, and something in your chest wouldn't settle until your hand moved the cloth across that surface and the granite gleamed back at you. Uniform, predictable, yours. Someone visits your apartment and says something like, "Wow, you're so clean, I could never." And they laugh, and you laugh too. But underneath that laugh is something they'll never touch. Because this isn't about cleanliness. It never was. What if the thing people casually admire about you is actually the scar tissue of something much deeper? What if the daily ritual of cleaning isn't a personality quirk, but a language your nervous system learned to speak when no other language felt safe? Psychologist Judith Herman, who spent decades studying trauma and recovery, wrote about how control over one's immediate environment becomes a primary stabilization tool for people whose early worlds felt chaotic or unpredictable. Not chaotic in the dramatic, cinematic sense necessarily. Sometimes it was just a household where emotions shifted without warning. A parent whose mood you had to read from the sound of their footsteps on the stairs. A home where things were lost, broken, neglected, and no one seemed to care but you. Your developing brain took notes. It learned that external order meant internal safety, that if the shoes were lined up, if the dishes were done before bed, if your room was immaculate, then maybe, just maybe, the next unpredictable thing wouldn't hit so hard. And now you're 30, or 25, or 47, and you still can't go to sleep with dishes in the sink. Not because you're uptight, because your body still believes that disorder is a warning sign. Some people clean because stillness terrifies them. Neuroscientist Andrew Huberman has talked extensively about how repetitive physical movement, especially tasks with clear beginnings and endings, activates the forward action circuits of the basal ganglia and floods the system with low-grade dopamine. It's not the dopamine of excitement, it's the dopamine of coherence, of feeling like you're moving somewhere, even when your life feels stuck. These are often the people who clean when they're anxious, when they're sad, when a conversation went wrong and they don't know how to fix it. The vacuum comes out, the bathroom gets scrubbed, the closet gets reorganized. And by the time they're done, something has shifted. Not the problem itself, but the unbearable feeling of being frozen inside it. They found a rhythm their body could follow when their mind was spinning in circles. Then there's another group entirely, people who clean every day because it is genuinely the only domain in their life where effort produces a visible, immediate, and undeniable result. Think about that for a moment. You go to work and send emails into a void. You try to improve yourself and the progress is invisible for months. You invest in relationships and sometimes they dissolve anyway without explanation. But you spray the mirror, you drag the cloth across it, and it shines. Done. Complete. Undeniable. Psychologist Martin Seligman's research on learned helplessness showed that organisms who repeatedly experience uncontrollable outcomes eventually stop trying unless they have at least one arena where their agency is confirmed. For a lot of people, daily cleaning is that arena. It's not compulsive. It's survival-level proof that they still have the power to change something in their world, even if it's just the state of a kitchen floor. And then there are the ones who will never say this out loud. The ones who clean every day because it's the only way they know how to love. Maybe they grew up watching a mother or grandmother who expressed every ounce of care she had through the state of her home. Love wasn't spoken in that household. It was folded into hospital corners on the bed. It was a swept porch. It was the smell of bleach on Sunday morning, which meant someone in that house gave a damn about the people living in it. You absorbed that. You took it into your bones. And now when you love someone, when you want them to feel held, you don't say the words, because the words feel slippery and insufficient. You clean their kitchen. You organize their shelf. You make the bed while they're still showering, so they walk into a room that says someone was thinking about you, without any of the vulnerability of actually saying it. This is an attachment language. Psychologist Gary Chapman called it acts of service, but that term feels sanitized compared to what's actually happening inside you. What's actually happening is that you're repeating the only reliable love you ever witnessed, translating devotion into bleach and order and the quiet hum of a home that holds together because you hold it together. There's a memory that might surface here, and if it does, let it. You're maybe 9 or 10 years old. The house is a mess, not a normal mess, a mess that has a feeling to it, heavy, like the air itself is neglected. Maybe there were dishes that had been there for days. Maybe the carpet hadn't been vacuumed in so long you could feel grit under your bare feet. Maybe it smelled like stale cigarette smoke and something sweet rotting in the trash nobody took out. And one afternoon, you just started cleaning. Nobody asked you to. You didn't even fully understand why. You got the sponge from under the sink and you started wiping the counter. And something in your chest cracked open, because for the first time in days or weeks, something in that house was responding to you. You were 9, and you were parenting the space around you, because the space needed a parent, and nobody else was volunteering. The counter gleamed, and you stood there looking at it with a feeling that lived somewhere between pride and grief. That feeling never fully left. It just grew up with you. It put on adult clothes and became a daily routine, and you called it being tidy, because the truth was too heavy to carry into casual conversation. What nobody tells you, what no one explains in those offhand comments about how organized you are, is that daily cleaning is often a form of emotional regulation, so elegant and effective that clinical psychology should study it more seriously than it does. Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, in his work on how the body stores unresolved experience, emphasized that the body needs to complete action sequences to discharge stress. When your system is flooded with cortisol, and there's no tiger to run from, no clear enemy to confront, the body still needs to move through the activation cycle. Scrubbing, sweeping, folding, sorting, these aren't mindless. They're completion rituals. They tell your nervous system the emergency is being handled. The perimeter is secure. You can rest now. And here's the psychological reframe that changes everything. You are not neurotic for needing this. You are not broken for cleaning when others would just sit with the mess. You developed a coping architecture that is physical, productive, and non-destructive. In a world that numbs itself with alcohol, doom scrolling, spending, and compulsive consumption, you chose an adaptation that leaves your environment more beautiful than you found it. That is not a flaw. That is an intelligent nervous system doing what it learned to do in the absence of safer options, and continuing to do it because, honestly, it works. It works better than most things. So if you're someone who cleans every day and has ever felt weird about it, if you've ever minimized it as just a habit or worried that it means something is wrong with you, let this be the thing that settles that question. Nothing is wrong with you. Something happened to you, or something is happening inside you, and you found a way to meet it that doesn't destroy you or anyone around you. You built a ritual of agency in a world that often feels uncontrollable. You made love legible through order. You gave your body somewhere to put the feelings it couldn't name. And every morning when you wake up and the bed gets made and the surfaces get wiped and the floor gets swept, you are not performing for anyone. You are speaking to yourself in the only language that ever made you feel safe. That's not obsession. That's not disorder. That's a person who learned very early that the world doesn't take care of itself. And if no one else was going to hold things together, you would. You still do. And maybe you always will. The coffee mug goes back on its shelf. The counter catches morning light, clean and unblemished, and your hand rests against the edge of it for just a second longer than necessary, feeling the cool surface, the certainty of it, before you turn and walk into whatever the day has waiting.